another day. I'm on the move. I'm not in my comfort studio with a cup of coffee, thinking things through, sharing with you a simple conversation. No, today, at this moment, I'm just walking and talking and thinking. And what has gotten me to this point here? Why am I in this state of mind, this state of purpose? What's happening in the news? What's happening in the news with the USS Abraham Lincoln, the military, our government, right? Military illumination is about opening the eyes of the public, sharing insight. And my name is Gary, and I hope you stay with me today. It may not be the best of production, audio-wise, but we're going to make a connection. We're going to talk about this. When you talk about military illumination, when you talk about understanding what's happening, it's simply just putting things together, putting the parts together, right? But unless you know what you're looking for, it's hard to connect the dots. But once you see it, you'll never unsee it. Once you've seen dishonesty in the military, when you've seen the things I've seen, dishonesty, harassment, illegal activity, manipulation, abuse, sexual abuse, harassment, racial tensions, and ineffective system at work, you can never unsee it, and you'll forever connect the dots. What am I talking about? What I'm talking about right now is the ineffectiveness at the highest level, right? That has an impact on our military personnel. Today, our topic is going to be the topic is going to be patriotism or profits. What's driving your decision? And so just sit down with me. While I'm walking, you can sit and listen. Profit versus patriotism. The underlying theme, I would say, is our government, the White House, Chief of Staff, President, making billions of dollars off of their illegal military action. Okay, when I mention profit over patriotism and the impact of a lot of decisions and the impact of the opportunity from profit, that's what I mean. Where your main thinking, your main thought as a leader is the fact that you're putting your country first, right? You're looking at what's the best interest of your country. And in doing so, you would look at the best interest of the people, the men and women who serve in the military, right? And what comes along with that is the fact that every action you take is carefully planned, okay? And you're looking at the actions as far as a definitive in, definitive process, and definitive out, right? When there's a possibility of motives for income, that kind of clouds that, right? But what I think I'm saying is that if your main motivation is the sustainability of the people that you are elected to govern, that goes through all levels of the government, all departments, right? And what that looks like is careful consideration and careful planning at all levels before major action is taken. Okay? When profit is your motivation, then the means justifies the end, right? The people aren't your primary. The men and women in the service is and the forefront of your thoughts, right? You're looking how to maximize the body that you have to get what you want. And I think if you're looking to enlist in the military, you have to definitely consider that aspect, that when I'm in the military, what is driving the decisions of my leaders, right? That has to be, because that's going to impact what you do, when you do it, and how you do it. If you have a government, if you have a system that puts profit over you, politics, not politics, over patriotism, country, then finding out now how a lot of things are happening, how it negatively impacts your families. That's when we talk about military illumination, is knowing, forgetting the fact that it's about patriotism, serving the country. Forget all that BS, right? Because in its rawest form, all it really comes down to, and always has come down to, and always will come down to, is profit. And the military's personnel is nothing more than an instrument of obtaining that profit. You can look at it from the standpoint of a game. What? You're going to have your hitmen, you're going to have your killers, but the top guy always wins. Okay? Say in gangs, it's about family, it's about, come up, you're expendable. That's what you got to understand when you're considering the military. And anything they offer you is nothing more than a carrot. Nothing more than, I don't know what to say. Come on. Nothing more than an inducement, a false flag, I don't know, to get you in and to turn your life upside down and sideways. Right now, if you read the news, USS Abraham Lincoln, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the tip of the iceberg, right? No food, no supplies, bad conditions. Okay, now here's the kicker. The kicker is the main person who is in charge of that, the Secretary of Defense, they also call it, for lack of a better term, Secretary of War. Hold on. Okay. I'm back. I said a lot before, really was on the edge, but I don't want to come off to be, I really didn't want to come off heavy like that, but it really was surprising. It's really disheartening what happens to people that are in the military and when things go sideways. But it's a necessary evil. When you think about your military, it's necessary. But what is also is necessary is that you share with the prospects, with the recruits, people who are looking to enlist in the military. You owe it to them to tell you the truth. And that's something that doesn't happen for whatever reason. But one of the things when you enter into the military, something that people don't understand, people that don't understand but need to know, is you're in a closed environment. Even in the contract, it says it's not the same as the civilian. It doesn't say like that, but that's what's paraphrasing in the contract. It's different, right? You also in the contract, you're going to be coming at what it alludes to is that you're going to come up in situations where you have no choice, where you're going to be dictated to, where you're going to be told to do. Those things are glossed over, or perhaps maybe the people don't really understand the magnitude of what can happen. The incidents now in the Middle East with the USS Abraham Lincoln, that fiasco with the destruction of our bases on the ground in the Middle East, right? Our port of calls that we were able to get resupplied from, all were taken out. all in basically the first couple of days of the war. How can you not see that? That's the question I'm asking. But then you also got to know too is when you're listing, are you thinking about those kind of things? About the people who are going to be leading you, about the officers who's going to be telling you what to do, about the government who's going to be sending you out to handle some business in a foreign country. You come to a time where you got to start asking those questions. Most people do. Many Americans don't. We are blinded. We're like sheep, just following on. And I see a lot of parallels to what happens in the United States and what's happening in Russia. The leaders are very similar. The way the citizens are behaving, very similar, right? And what's also similar is the countries that they're attacking are fighting back, and they're winning. But we don't see that because why? We're shielded. We're not told everything. In the military, you're shielded even more, right? When that crisis that was happening or did happen, it only got out to the public because the sailors were reaching out to their families. Enough sailors were reaching out to their families and to their congresspeople, enough, which broke through that invisible barrier, force field, if you would. For the most part, a force field is intact and it's strong. It keep everything in. But there's come a time there comes a time, and now more than ever, where information leaks out. And if enough leaks out in force, then we're forcing the hands of our leaders, the Pentagon, of the White House, to take action. But unfortunately, the action that they will take is not to alleviate the problem, if not to fix the situation. Their response is to hide it. And how do they hide it? By downplaying it, right? By downplaying it, by discouraging, by also calling into question the credibility of the people who are speaking. And finally, it shuts down the communication system known as the news or the public news media, mainstream media. I think that's the best way to put it. Mainstream media. Fortunately, what's happening is mainstream media is being overshadowed by amateurs, for lack of a better term, on YouTube. They're telling the truth, right? I followed the Ukrainian-Russia situation since day one, basically. And it was just like, I couldn't believe how they pulled it off, right? But there's people who are reporting on it. Those are the places that are shut down first. So, what happened with the USS Abraham Lincoln? It's really, you want to look at it from the standpoint of what's happening. And you got to have a long-term memory. You got to be like a detective. Everything that comes across your plate, you got to be categorizing it, separating it, isolating it. You got to be doing something with that information. Something more than just letting it go. Okay? And if you have been following it, and you've been following the military, you're following the government and the moves they're making, you're going to see the picture. I cannot unsee it. Even in this situation, I'm seeing the connection between what happened to my friend, what happened to me, and what's happening now. And it's like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. So, bad situation, no refueling, our bases were destroyed, where the aircraft carriers would have resupplied. Hands are tied. Does the government say anything about it? Does Pete, that's the Secretary of Defense, I can't spell his name, Hesfest or whatever, does he mention it? Does Congress mention it? Does the president mention it? No one mentions it. Does the mainstream media bought by our government mention it? No one talks about it. No one mentions it. No one knows. Because that's a sign of weakness. And that's another trait of Putin. Right? So our leaders have that same trait. You need leadership.
No sign of weakness. I'm going to get to this point later with the National Guard, and I can see it. So the information gets out, how bad it is. It doesn't go away, right? Hesketh, the Secretary of Defense, tries to just sweep beneath the carpet, downplay it, but it wouldn't go away. It's not going away. It's getting bigger. It's snowballing. Now the undersecretary is flying in on the ship or having meetings with the families in San Diego. That's where the port is. And it doesn't go away. It's a nightmare for the military. Now they cannot hide their mistakes. So what happens next? The Secretary of Defense, they call him the Secretary of War. I'm going to call it Secretary of Defense. Now discredits the soldiers, the sailors, that are making these complaints, that are telling their families. In essence, call them a liar. Number one is, first of all, they're going to downplay it. You've taken notes on it. If you're in the military, there's something you want to take note of it. If you're a family of somebody in the military, you want to take note of it. Definitely think about going to the military. You want to take note of this. First thing they're going to bad situations, first thing they're going to do is downplay it. Pushing it to rug. Deny it. Deny. Second thing was going to happen is that if you get the Congress involved, or we get some type of outside agency involved, right? Whether it's family, whether it's news, whether it's government agencies, they're going to give misinformation. They're not going to tell the truth. They're going to say it's fine. Like Trump said, it's fine, it's clean, it's a beautiful, maintained ship, no problems, right? In actuality, what has transpired and what came out as far as the resupply stuff and the conditions came out, basically showed that what the commander-in-chief had mentioned was a lie. So anyways, that's the first thing they're going to do. The third thing they're going to do is discredit the source. They're going to discredit the source. Okay? Whatever that is, they're going to discredit it. Call him a liar. Say it's not true. Don't believe him. We got this covered. They had the upper hand because who's going to think that they're unethical? Who's going to think that their leaders are unethical? Who would ever think about that? But it's true. It's the way it happens. Those are three things. And those things played out, in the last couple of weeks with the USS Abraham Lincoln. Now, that's the only one. It had come out before with other ships. The destroyer that lost power for 24 days. That never hit the news. I can understand ComSec, security. I can see it from the standpoint of that's a nightmare. I'm sorry. I can understand not saying that you got to carry this power. Oh my goodness, you're just asking for trouble. So on the one part of it, it's a necessary evil. You got to understand it. That's what you have to understand. It's a necessary evil. It has to be this way. But what doesn't have to be this way is telling people who are coming into the military that is this way. And then them to decide. And there'll be enough people to fill your ranks if you tell them the truth up front. That's it. You don't have to lie to them. They don't have to lie to us. But that's just their MO. So when you dealing with the military that's going to lie to you at the very beginning, how truthful will they be throughout? Can you really trust them? The last phase is now. This is the part where people don't see. The carrier's on the way home. They're probably going to have a lot of officers being relieved. Why? They got to put the blame on somebody. They have to put the blame on someone other than the leadership, other than the Secretary of Defense, other than the President of the States, other than Congress. You got to put the blame on someone else. This is the fourth thing. The blame they're going to put on is, first of all, on those commanders that's on that ship. Their careers are, for all intents and purposes, done. Now, they're going to do it silently, right? They won't publicize it in the papers. Only you're probably going to find out about it if the officers who are relieved speak out or their families speak out. But this that silent death of the military. They do it behind closed doors. No one knows. But the anguish lingers. That humiliation lingers, forming into PTSD. It lingers. You don't just walk away from something like that. Knowing that you gave your heart, knowing that you did your best, knowing that whatever you had to work with, you did the best you could with it. But you're a scapegoat. Somebody's got to pay, and it's not going to be Pete. It's not going to be Trump. It's not going to be the Congress. That's another thing. That's the fifth thing you want to remember about when in the military. Someone's going to pay, and it won't be the leaders. Now, I'm gonna tie this together here in a minute. Stick with me. Then finally, the other people that's going to pay are those sailors who contacted their congressmen. That's going to be the first one. The sailors and their families who contacted the congressman. They're going to pay. They're going to pay. Once again, it's not going to be up front. It's going to be retaliation. It's going to be lack of promotion. It's going to be, they're just going to pick at that person, right? Until they break. They're going to find out some way, if they're close to retirement, not to give them the retirement. They're going to pay retaliation. They're going to pay. You won't see it in the news. You'll hear, the only way you'll really hear about it is through the families and the sailors. And I said in one of my other podcasts, I think season 1, you can't trust your congresspeople. I'm going to tell you why. You cannot trust your congressperson. Everyone who contacted the person had to give information to that congressperson. Everyone. They had to detail what was happening. They had to give consent. I told you before, they're going to pack that up, wrap it up, as the Congress to me, and ship it all to the military. And they're going to wipe their hands clean. So I can guarantee you, those sailors who spoke up will be punished. It's a necessary evil. It has to happen. But otherwise, you can have a mutiny on your hands. All right? That's what military life is like. In the United States military. You think it's all glory and fame? No. You're a pawn. I said it before. You're a pawn. You're worth as much as they pay you and no more. You're expendable. You're just a piece. You're just, what is the most worthless thing you can get that has no value? I don't know. I guess you could be a slave. Yeah, like an indentured servant. I think if you take it from that standpoint, and once again, this isn't a racial thing. They've had throughout the country, throughout mankind, they've had slavery existed, not just the United States. Okay. So don't go there. But you are a slave, chained. It might not be a physical chain. It could be an economic chain. It could be fear. Well, speaking of fear, this is another reason why you don't want to talk to your congressman. It's because they're in fear for their lives. When I mean lives, they're political lives. I read an article just recently where it talks about they don't want to go up against Trump. They don't want to fight him because they got to deal with the re-elections. They're feared for the jobs. They're feared for the jobs. And when you got a person that you can't stop and has so much power, that sounds like Putin, but no, this is Trump. They're not going to do anything to upset him. They're not going to do anything to upset him. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Yeah, they may have questioned people in the media, but do they do much more than that? No. Yes, they probably sent letters to the superiors in the military questioning them, but do they do much more than that? No. Could they have done much more? Yes. They don't want to. So now, while you're thinking that the Congress is on your side, they're just as stuck as the sailors are. Their hands are tied. Trump has got it. No one wants to go up against him. No one wants to stand up. In the end, I think the America is going to pay the price. Because you know what? We cannot defend everybody in this world. They come against us. We need allies. And when you Trump You trample on your allies. You don't give support. You treat people like dirt. Do you think you're really going to come to your aid when you ask them? Do you really think so? Right now, there's nobody coming out here. We're still in that ocean by ourselves. There's really not. There's Israel, but very limited. It's kind of funny though with Israel. Yeah, it was a joint activity at first, but they backed away. They got quietly out of the picture. Yeah, I don't know everything, but they're not in the news media. Why? Because they're afraid. They're afraid of what Iran will do. Okay? Our leader isn't afraid. Maybe he didn't have enough comments. I shouldn't say that. Maybe. I don't. You know? I don't know. I'm not going to go there. It's not fun. Well, they're afraid. Everyone's afraid to act. And which means that America is standing alone. Which means the sailors are standing alone. Because no one wants to act on their behalf. They're alone. Navy guys are alone. Army guys are Army people. I'm not going to say guys. Men and women in our armed forces alone. In desperate situations. Think about that. Think about that. Your Congress is too afraid. Your Department of Defense don't care. Executive branch don't care. Okay? And they're alone. But you got to come to those terms when you do go into the military. There's no one going to be there for you. It's just going to be you. So let's look at this one from another standpoint. Let's just say a person is sexually assaulted by someone in their command. I use it a lot because that happens a lot in the military. Okay. So first thing they're going to do is they're going to tell somebody. They're probably run the JAG, right? Or the IG, or the chaplain, and they're going to hit a brick door. They're going to hit a wall. They're going to hit a wall. Nothing's going to happen. They're going to tell a family member. They're going to be desperate. They're going to tell a family member. The family member is probably going to tell them, contact your congressional leader. Send them a letter. We'll do the same. Everyone sends out the information to the congressional leader. A congressional inquiry is made. Oops. All the information and documentation was sent to them that by the person who was assaulted, by an officer, by a commander, because that happens a lot too. Somebody in their chain of command. It usually happens a lot of times with young women, men too, but 18 to 24 is what they're saying statistically. And I think in 2023, there were over 18,000 that were sexually assaulted in just the army. Okay, now what do you say it for? And discount it. You gloss it over. It's the first thing that's going to happen back. The next thing they're going to retaliate against the person who made the complaint. It happened. Google it. YouTube it. People will tell their stories. It's there. Now they're retaliating against. And in some cases, the retaliation is so bad, the service members don't have to commit suicide, or they get out, or they just can't take it. They can't bear it. After the retaliation, everybody ties their hands and walks away. The person's left alone. Ostracized. Okay. That's how it goes. My friend, in Washington National Guard, it's textbook. The illegal action took place. If there's two things you can do. You can keep quiet about it, right? And just go with it and get to where you get to anyways, a lot faster. You get sexually assaulted, you just bite the bullet, you just accept it, even if it's repeated, right? Because nothing else of significance will happen. So my friend's situation, first thing, had that person just wrote it out, it would have been over quickly, and it would have been a far more disaster. But they spoke out. They got the public involved. It was the internet. It was send letters out to the congressperson, send the letters out to everybody. Right now, it's out. Once it hit the internet, what was happening with the internet, and all the other soldiers could see what was happening, changed the complexity of the situation for Brett Doctor. Brett Doctor and his XO saw, they cooked it up. It was textbook malicious intent, malicious prosecution, because it got outside of the National Guard, and more people were seeing it. It broke through that communication barrier. Now, game plan had to change. It went into the denial. Legowitz, bless his soul, I think he's passed away. His legacy is that he maliciously prosecuted a soldier, allowed it to happen on his watch. He didn't care. Probably wasn't the first time he did something like that. So I see him, he's gone in all the medals, but what he did is going to live on forever. The medals are nothing. They're cheesy medals anyway. They're like rewards they give them to each other. Anyways, make a long story short. Yeah, they're really, the medals mean no monetary value at all. It doesn't get you more pay in the military. It doesn't give you more status in the civilian life. People, when you put it on your resume, they don't look at what the heck is that? Ever. It has no value. Our citizens don't value our military like they used to. So anyways, it got out and it changed the complexity. It went to some superior court. It went to some court. It went to Ninth Court Circuit Appeals. These appeals, all this activity, what they were trying to hide, they weren't able to hide it no more. There's history of it. Okay? And so now, retaliation, it just got worse. It just got worse. It just got worse. It just got worse. In the end, they retaliated. That person was left all by themselves. When it was over, after Coffee, Daniel Coffee, he's another one that's passed away. No, I don't talk evil about it, but he signed off on it. Evil activity. And that's what they do. They punishment. I told you those folks that ship punished. That's what happened to my friend. Then it wasn't enough for them just to punish it and whatever. They moved that person from the unit to the headquarters, where every day the person sees those officers who did it to them. Every day. See? That is just, how do you think that person felt? It's just crazy. But that's what happens. So that's why what was happening with the USS Abraham Lincoln, was happening with the supply depots, the response, Pete, the Secretary of Defense, the congressional leaders, all this connects, it's all the same. It's all the same. It connects. It's just, I'm sorry. It's all the same. That goes to show you that's the process. And the process, it plays out. They play against the civilians, the citizens. The same thing. Same goal. And just like Putin, their country is burning up. It's still gas. He's still saying, oh, it's fine. It's fine. I think it reminds me of one of the Mighty Python skits with the knight. I think it was the Holy Grail. If you ever watched that, you'll see what I'm saying. It was so funny. He just basically got chopped up to where he was on his amputees instead of trying to fight with, it was funny, but that's what it is. They will deny it all the time, manipulating. Okay? And what happens in the end, they're making more money. In the end, they're making more money. Our president is a businessman. All his buddies that he's hired are business people. I'm pretty, they know how the market works. Gas prices going up. But if you got stocks in those companies, they're making profit. Their stocks are going. It's just that way. They're raking in billions at the expense of our men and women in the military. Right? They've chosen profits over patriotism. You look at it, okay, we lost, I saw an article talking about we lost a $22 billion, I think it's a $22 billion contract we just handed down to resupply the military with Tomahawk missiles that we used in a situation that maybe we didn't even be involved in. That's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of money. People are making money hand over a fist because of Iran. But that doesn't matter. What we're talking about here is the limited truth behind the military enlistment experience. And the truth of the matter is that you're pawns. You're isolated. They're isolated. Communications is at such a level to where the truth never comes out. And they're always operating in the dark. If you're willing to work on those conditions, then fine. You can go for it. Right? If that's a way to feed your family, take care of your life, then don't complain. But that's what it's about. To wrap it up, question, is it important? Is it important to know what's going on? To have the support of your leadership in the military and your government? Is it important? If it is important, then maybe you want to reconsider the military as an option. It's the truth. You take any situation and you bounce off those 4 things that I just mentioned, and you will start seeing it. I think in Vietnam, it was Agent Orange. D was a big one. They denied it. It took them a long time to acknowledge it, our government, and to compensate people. That's why you got so many veterans just on the streets now. They underreported the drug use in Vietnam. And they come back addicted. But before I sign off, I want to bring up one more thing about communications. The Stars and Stripes. Stars and Stripes editors were just fired today. That's Friday. By the Department of Defense, by Hextess, in that administration, because of what they wrote in the Stars and Stripes. And because they were standing up for what's right. Stars and Stripes is an independent paper with support, with money, some financial support from the Pentagon. And they fired him. Hextess fired him. So the Stars and Stripes used to be something that you can get honest information from, but now it's just a propaganda. You can't trust it. It's what they want you to know. It's what they means our government, the military, want you to know. It's going to come a time where they're probably going to restrict them on their phone use. And how they do that? Wi-Fi on their ships. It's bad. It's bad. So the Stars and Stripes editors were fired. Congress is afraid to oppose the commander-in-chief. Americans are blinded. They're just happy-go-lucky. Right. You'll see. That's what you want to think about when you think about the military in the United States. I'm not saying it's the best, and I'm not saying that a lot of other places are better. We're the ones who beat our chest saying freedom, democracy, freedom of speech. But yet we are basically shutting down the voices of the people and shutting down free speech. Go figure. Talk to you later. Have a good day.